And welcome back to Rebels Revisited. When we left off, things weren't so great for Sabine and friends. Kanan was being mean, Sabine walked out of training, Ezra tried to talk to her but it didn't really work, it's a whole mess.
Clearly, we are in dire need of the Hera intervention. Now there's a lot going on in the Hera intervention, so let's do this in a couple sections.
Teaching Ezra wasn't easy, but you did it well. I'm sure you'll find a way to get through to Sabine.
It's not the same. Ezra was eager to learn. Sometimes too eager. I was the one who was holding back.
And that's not what you're doing now?
No.
And yet, you still won't let her train with the Darksaber.
Look, Sabine is a capable warrior, in some ways more so than Ezra, but she can't or won't find balance within herself. Until she does, wielding an actual lightsaber is far too dangerous for her.
For one thing, I love what this and their scene earlier says about their relationship. They comfortably talk to each other about serious topics and have very open communication. Kanan just knows to go to Hera with this. This sort of communication is routine for them. I love how they're really depicted as having a healthy relationship. Now, remember what I was saying about Kanan lacking accountability and self-awareness? Here it is again. He acknowledges his role in training Ezra, but that's a blind spot in this situation. Hera asking, "That's not what you're doing now," is almost like her asking, "Are you sure you're not a part of the problem?" And Kanan is like, "No, definitely not," but it's obvious that he is. If he's not holding back, then what's up with the training sabers, right? Which Hera points out immediately, showing us how Kanan is in his own blind spot. He's actively refusing to consider Hera's point about himself while saying that Sabine can't or won't open up. Again, he's making the problem something completely external from himself. He's accusing Sabine of making this difficult by saying won't, while denying the idea that he also has fault. One of the things I think Kanan really learned from the Bendu was humility, and that really needs to kick in right about now. Luckily, Hera isn't giving up yet.
By letting her pretend with that stick, you're only encouraging her not to commit to this.
You're not listening to me. If I let her use the Darksaber, she will get hurt.
She's already hurt. Her family hurt her more than any sword could. You don't see it because she doesn't want you to.
But you can?
Because I know what it's like when people you love don't believe in you. When they let you walk away. Remember how hard it was for her to trust us.
Notice how Kanan says, "You're not listening to me." He isn't listening to Hera at all. Rather, he's trying to be heard. He's just trying to get her to agree with him rather than listening to her advice. I think the turning point in the conversation is when Kanan is like, "Oh, but you do understand her?" And Hera has to explain the fairly obvious reason why she might be able to have a deeper understanding of Sabine. She definitely responds in a way that makes it clear that Kanan needs to think about himself a little bit less and think about other people in the full context of who they are a little bit more. Kanan knows Hera well enough. It should have been obvious to him why she'd be able to understand Sabine. And again, there's his self-centered pattern showing up. Just to be clear, I am not saying that Kanan is an arrogant or self-centered person. When he's at his best, Kanan is very warm, supportive, understanding, and selfless. This whole thing is something that I could talk about for like probably a half hour straight, but basically this pattern is what comes out when Kanan is at his worst, and I'm not trying to define him by it. This is an analysis, not slander. Anyway, the rest of the conversation goes like this.
So what do you want me to do?
Give her the sword. Let her own it and who she is. Help Sabine face her demons.
I don't know.
I know you don't, but this isn't about you.
I've been waiting the entire series for someone to tell him that. Like, every time he gets himself into this funk, I just want to be like, "Sir, this isn't about you. Quit it with the tunnel vision. Thank you, Hera." But anyway, I like how Kanan does end up listening to Hera, and really listening. Hera broke through his self-centered stress wall, and now his humility kicks in. He asks Hera what she thinks he should do, submitting himself to her opinion because she is clearly the one who better understands the situation. This is the best best way for Sabine to get the results she needs, and finally Kanan is able to take a step back and actually care about Sabine rather than focusing on his own frustration. And I love the "I don't know, I know you don't." I love the acknowledgement of Kanan really struggling to grasp this situation. It's really important for him to admit that rather than thinking that he should know best like he was before. Thinking that he should know best not only puts too much pressure on himself, but it also closes him off to outside ideas that will actually make things work for Sabine. Humility is the only way he will succeed here. And now that Kanan has gotten over himself, we go back to Darksaber training one last time.
I owe you an apology.
I can say the same.
Take it. It's yours.
Oh, I love to see it. As I've been saying, this teacher-student thing goes both ways, so I like that both of them apologized. Definitely pleased to see Kanan initiate it and to see his actions speak louder than his words. Giving Sabine the Darksaber is the best way for him to show that he understands where and how he went wrong. I just love the fact that they apologized at all. If this show is about anything, it's about dysfunctional people learning how to be healthy and seeing these guys swallow their pride and genuinely feel sorry. That's great, because I think the two of them hurt each other because they each have behaviors rooted in trauma, and those behaviors just ended up butting heads. And it's really important to strike a balance between knowing that trauma can cause bad behaviors that aren't necessarily in line with who you are or who you want to be, but also acknowledging that you can hurt other people because of those behaviors, and it's important to acknowledge when you hurt other people because of those behaviors. Trauma can be a reason, but not an excuse. Okay, now this is some of my favorite Jedi lore in the entire series. I really go crazy for it.
Energy constantly flows through the crystal. You're not fighting with a simple blade as much as you are directing a current of power. Your thoughts, your actions, they become energy. They flow through the crystal as well and become a part of the blade. The blades will be drawn to each other. There's pull. Can you feel it? That sword is old, heavy, but powerful. Respect its strength.
The blade feels lighter.
You're connecting with it. It's becoming a part of you.
You are directing a current of power! Your thoughts and actions become energy and flow through the crystal. Oh my god! The lightsaber is literally an extension of the self. Your feelings and the blade are in communication. Your feelings and the blade are in communication. And also treating the blade as something like holy and almost sentient by saying to respect its strength. Like, this is literally one of my favorite pieces of lore. I get chills. Another thing about this first round of sparring is that Kanan is being so much warmer with her. Still serious, but not the iron wall he was earlier. He's talking to her, not down to her. He's working with her, not from above her. This time, he's cognizant of how much her feelings play a role in this. Before, it was almost like he was consciously ignoring her feelings. And it's proof that the Jedi never should have. Look at how much of a hindrance repression is. Now, Sabine is starting to open up, but not quite enough yet. She's still struggling to win.
You're fighting yourself. And losing.
Okay, actually, what kind of kids show is this? Like, that hits hard. And Kanan is majorly speaking from experience as well. He's always been his own biggest obstacle. As the scene progresses from there, Kanan increases pressure to push Sabine to a catharsis.
You're not committed to this. You should quit.
I don't quit. I never quit.
Really? That's not what it looks like. You did run, didn't you?
No!
But that's what your people believe, isn't it? You ran from the Empire, you ran from your family.
Lies!
So what's the truth?
And now Kanan is being difficult with a purpose. So much different from earlier. The difference is that before he held anger and frustration. He was too focused on his own feelings. And now those things are gone, and this is truly all about getting through to Sabine now. And oh boy does he get through to her. Here it is. Sabine's catharsis. I won't play the whole clip for sake of time, but here's a part of it.
They controlled us through fear. Mandalore! Fear of weapons I helped create! I helped enslave my people! I wanted to stop it. I had to stop it. I spoke out. I spoke out to save them. To save everyone! But when I did, my family didn't stand with me. They chose the Empire. They left me. Gave me no choice.
I'll never forget watching that for the first time. It was like floodgates had been opened. Sabine was always the most closed-off character, so like, I mean, seeing her have a breakdown and that incredible voiceover work from Tia Sakar, and like, God, seeing tears in her eyes, it just shocked me. Truly shocked me. I felt like I held my breath and didn't blink for the whole scene. What a breakthrough for her, though, and a different sort of breakthrough from anyone else in the series. Sabine was a powder keg, ready to explode, and here she is at the breaking point. Earlier in the episode, Kanan said that Sabine is so expressive yet so guarded at the same time. Her feelings are huge and vivid and deep, not the kind of feelings that should be locked away, but she locked them away anyway. That's why she's an artist, right? But the scope of this catharsis is really no surprise. It's always seemingly the least emotional people who have the biggest explosions. Someone like Sabine, who locks their emotions away and seems like they'll never cry in their life, are always the people who will explode the biggest when they reach a breaking point. Repression breeds it. Sabine needed this to happen, and I know as a viewer, it is extremely emotional for me to watch her reach this point. There's the element of shock, you know, and the scene is even overwhelming. But in addition to that, I just feel really proud of her for being able to make this breakthrough and be this vulnerable, because vulnerability is so hard. It's so hard for anyone, but it's really so hard when your past shapes you into rejecting it. And that makes being known so hard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a little bit emotional talking about this. That makes being known so hard and so scary, and repression may be damaging, but somehow it can seem better and safer than vulnerability. But Sabine took the leap and purged all of this, and I know she's not a real person, but it just makes me feel really proud of her. Another thing I'm thinking about is how this could easily be the first time Kanan is hearing this story from her, and the first time he's seeing her show this much emotion. It's actually so interesting that Kanan is the one who's working Sabine through this moment, like, because of that. There is friction between them. Again, we saw it before now in the Protector of Concord Dawn. We know that even outside of the training context, they've had trouble working together. This episode just brought that tension to a new level, except at the end of it all, Kanan is the one who was there to support Sabine through her greatest moment of vulnerability. And I appreciate how supportive he is at the end of the scene. He sits up next to her, he puts his hand on her shoulder, but the best thing is what he says.
The Empire rules with fear, and not everyone can be as strong as you've been. Your family is in a prison, one of their own making. It's up to you to help them out of it.
Finally, the acknowledgement of her strength that she needed throughout this whole process. Without saying it outright, Kanan is telling Sabine that it's not her fault. Her family is in their situation because of their decision to give in to fear and side with the Empire. Sabine did what she could to make up for her mistakes and go against the Empire, and it was her family's choice not to stand with her, so Kanan is kind of absolving her of any guilt she feels like she needs to feel. Finally, Kanan is communicating the right messages. I think that what he told her is the validation that she'd needed for a really long time, and it's validation that she never would have gotten had she never opened up. Now, if I can just play the ending of the episode.
But how? Why? Why would they believe me? Why would they follow me?
I know this might not be what you want to hear, but for what it's worth, I would follow you.
So would I. And I mean it.
You've come a long way in a very short time. Where you go from here is up to you. But no, this family will stand by you no matter what you choose.
Sabine's body language when she says "but how" is so good. It communicates so much, especially together with the voice acting. Holding herself like that indicates her discomfort with vulnerability. It's a protective position, and it also makes her look so lost and devoid of the confidence and outer strength we're used to seeing. And then when Fenrau and Ezra kneel to her, that is so powerful. Like, she deserves that respect after that catharsis. And then Kanan telling her that they'll stand with her no matter what she chooses. That's the opposite of her blood family. It was important for Sabine to confront her feelings about her blood family and not just leave them untouched in her past, but the Ghost Crew is still the family that she needs. I like this whole moment because of how Sabine doesn't suddenly feel better after her catharsis or because of what the others said to her. They just let the moment breathe, and that's exactly how the moment should go. Going through such intense emotions, even if it's the best thing for you in the long run, can be terrible and draining in the moment. After her cathartic breakthrough, Sabine feels very lost and insecure. She asks why anyone would follow her or believe her. She doesn't feel strong. The magnitude of her emotions just took everything out of her. Which is why Kanan, Fenrau, and Ezra's responses to her are so important. They made her feel safe and supported in the fallout of her most vulnerable moment, which was so important. And there we go! That's the episode. This is truly, truly among the greatest episodes in the series. I would actually say that this episode goes the hardest on character work, more so than any other episode. Really, really fantastic work from the cast and creative alike. Really fantastic work. Wow. Okay. Thanks for sticking with me on this one, guys. That was a lot. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.